Hello, everybody. Welcome to tonight's program with Coach Menachem Rosenfeld. Thank you for joining us here on the Sunday night on the rainstorm of the whole East Coast over here. While we're all rained in, we might as well be on Zoom and join. Tonight is Shir program 141. For those who are keeping Teshbin, we're up to 141. First, we start off every week thanking all the people that come on every week, all the viewers for posting all the WhatsApp statuses and telling people about it. Remember, please tell your friends and family, post it all over. We have a tremendous lineup of people coming up, a lot of amazing topics. Tremendous sichas chaverim, people gain a lot, tremendous amount. Last week's share with Rabbi was unbelievable. Tremendous feedback. Went across the world, literally did. And Rabbi reached out to us. He wants to do a follow-up on it. And hopefully we'll continue growing together. Again, if anybody wants to join our WhatsApp chats, every Sunday I'll send you the flyers. You can WhatsApp me at 848-525-0066. Again, that's 848-525-0066. You can go to menachemberenfeld.com and sign up for his weekly emails. He sends you the emails with the recordings and alla gute Sachen. And please sign up. For all the people that are watching this on YouTube, you can click on the subscribe button. So every Monday morning when Menachem uploads new videos of the week, you could get it straight to your dinged on your YouTube, or you could also click on the like button. Both appreciated. Start off first always with thanking all our advertising sponsors that promote us on the digital platforms. First, the Lakewood Scoop over here in Lakewood for promoting us every week. Ellie and Ariel from 5 Town Central, and a special thank you to Chayla Kaufman Shulson from JCN for always promoting us across all the digital platforms. Coach Menachem Show is collaborated with OK Clarity. OK Clarity is the online place for any year to find top-notch therapists, coach, nutritionist. OKClarity.com professional are vetted and have extreme, intensive experience working with the Jewish community. You can even find Coach Menachem Rosenfeld over there. So if you're in the market for a therapist or anything, or you're looking for somebody, you can go there. You can join the WhatsApp statuses at 917-426-1495. Again, that's 917-426-1495. Again, for all the people joining here the first time, every Sunday night at 9:30 at this time, we have a tremendous program. We have Rabbanim therapists, the best of the best, and we have a lot of interesting programs coming up. And please join us. Next week, hopefully, we'll be Joey Haber, not 100% confirmed. And then we'll follow May 14th with a big therapist from Clifton, New Jersey, Rabbi Michelle, who is a tremendous therapist that deals with marriage and EFT. He's supposed to be top of the line. He's coming on. And that's May 31st, Rabbi Yossi Zakatinsky. He's coming back for Erev Shavuos to give us our Erev Shavuos. So please join us. Again, all these programs are going to be meaningful, deep. Please tell people, family, friends to join. And let's jump on it. Tonight's show, we have the schus and honor of having once again, the Baal Musa, the Baal Machshava, very deep thinker of Joey Rosenfeld. Last time he was live from St. Louis. This time he made Aliyah. He's live from Amidst. It's 4:30 in the morning for him. So we'll give him credit for coming on. And last year was very deep. And hopefully tonight we're going to really try to get some tremendous chizik and real clarity on how to find inner peace, which I've been looking for many years. So that's the goal of tonight. Tonight's share is 141, and we need a gematria. And we brought on Harav Hagoyin Hatzadik, Rabbi Noach Free Shlita, the president, CEO of the Let's Get Real program. What is 141 for tonight's topic? What's tonight's topic and what's the gematria?
Tonight's topic is discovering inner calm amidst chaos, and every person, according to their situation in life and according to their level, experience different types of chaoses, and they have to resolve it through inner calmness. So b'siyat d'shmaya, the gematria of 141 is kikol echad l'chud. For each person individually, in their whatever situation they may be, whatever chaos they may be experiencing on their level, we hope to tap in. They should be able to have the strength to resolve and to regain inner calmness. B'siyat d'shmaya.
Okay, Coach Menachem, please tell us what we're doing here tonight. We're all gathered here tonight to hear. Why are we here tonight?
I want to welcome everyone. Welcome to another Let's Get Real with Coach Menachem. And yes, Baruch Hashem, a lot of Siyata D'Shmaya. We're up to number 141. And coming off from last week's topic, with Rabbi Tao, with Baruch Hashem. It wasn't an easy topic, digging deep. And obviously, the feedback that we got, people were vulnerable, and it's not always so easy. But the question is, do we have a place to talk about it? Or if not, we're walking around with something inside of us that doesn't let us just be. And it's important to talk about it. It's important to be aware that we have something. And I think tonight we'll talk about it a little bit more. The idea that is it possible to be calm? What does it mean, the inner calmness? What does it look like? And if it's even possible, there's so much going on. You're busy, we're working, family, learning, there's a lot. So what's that inner calmness? So we'll find out, I guess. Sitting on the couch and relaxing doesn't always mean that we're calm. You could be sitting on the couch and for some reason you're like tense, stressed. There's a lot going on. So outer calmness is possible. You're sitting on the couch, it looks like you're calm. Or even when people go on vacation, there are many people that go on vacation and for some reason they're fidgeting, they're on their phone. So it looks like they're on vacation, looks like they should be calm. Maybe outer calmness is possible, but inner calmness is to be able to go in a little bit deeper, stop everything you're doing and becoming aware of what am I feeling? What am I really feeling? And the topic of feelings sometimes is taboo. What do you mean what I'm feeling? I have to take care of this. I have to take care of that. I have to take care of this. I'm feeling okay, but to become aware. And many people, when they stop and become aware of themselves, it's painful. And they go to different types, different ways of escaping. Escaping can be even davening and learning many times. And there are many ways how, whether it's alcohol, being on your phone, being busy, just being busy, and you can't stop. What's really behind it? What's that drive? What's not letting you just relax and take it easy? So yes, workaholic is an addiction. And I'm happy we're having tonight Rabbi Rosenfeld, who has a lot of experience in addiction and to understand how to talk to the person and to be able to bring him back to himself. And I just want to mention, even in Ruchnius, many people, even in Ruchnius, they're worried, they're anxious. Am I doing enough? Am I learning enough? Am I doing enough chesed? Does Hashem really like me? Am I doing the right thing? What does Hashem think about me? And that doesn't let him just be calm and find that inner calmness that we're going to be talking about tonight. So it's important to know. I've asked the chosh of a person, what's that image that he believes Hashem looks at him? Like when you meet Hashem, when you talk to Hashem, when you daven to Hashem, what's that feeling you get? He told me he never thought about it. I didn't know how to understand that. And maybe I didn't word the question right. But deep down, we're all a Jew, a person who's trying to do mitzvahs, trying to do the right thing. Deep down, you're really living for Hashem. So is Hashem satisfied? Well, I don't know. How am I supposed to know? So I'll ask you, are you satisfied? So you might say, I'm not satisfied. I should be satisfied. I want to do more. So that itself is very tricky, a very fine line to know where is it coming from. I'm not happy with myself. And some people are never happy with themselves. So they can't find that inner calmness. Or it could be coming from they want to be better. And if that's the case, they should be able to find the inner calmness. And when they do a mitzvah and when they finish, they should feel good about it. The negativity, there's no place for negative over there. And the last thing, it could be coming many times from a deep-rooted, basic self-esteem. It's just how do you feel about yourself? And that could come from the first few years of our life, the first 10 years of our life, the way the adults around us, our experience, the way we felt about ourselves. And then even now, we're older, we're successful, we're doing great, but there's something lingering, something deep down that doesn't let the person just be happy and content with what he has and grow from a positive place. So all of these pieces, they're heavy and important to look at, to talk about. And amidst Shem tonight, we have this host, Rabbi Rosenfeld, to help us, whether it's from addiction place or Hasidus, to see what are we looking for, is it possible, and how to get there. Thank you very much.
Coach Menachem, beautiful opening. Okay, so tonight again is the overview of discovering inner calm amongst chaos, embracing Menucha as a path to serenity. I'm going to read Reb Joey's bio, and then the floor is yours. After years of being the director of spirituality of Substance Abuse Rehab Center, Reb Joey Rosenfeld is now running his own private practice as a psychotherapist, where he mainly sees clients struggling with anxiety, the spectrum of addiction, and mindfulness. His main interest of interface between psychology, philosophy, spirituality, and frequent lecturer on Kabbalistic psychology, Hasidus, and the Jewish spirituality. He attempts to graft together desperate threads of thought, creating a new consolidation of thinkers from various disciplines. With a primary focus on addiction, Rabbi Joey attempts to uncover philosophical themes underlying the addictive phenomenon in all facets. He's the author of an introduction to the Torah of Rabbi Yitzchak Meir Morgenstern Shlita and other works, as well as being Mashpia of the Light Revealed, Project The Living Room, a recovery program in New York. Rabbi Joey lives in Eretz Yisrael now with his wife and their children. Rabbi Joey, Boker Tov, thank you for joining us. Open it up. Let's go. The floor is yours.
Okay, amazing. Shalom Aleichem. So first and foremost, it's a schus to be here with the Coach Menachem program and the team. And it was a schus the first time, and it's a schus to be here this time. It's such a space. And everything Rabbi Menachem is describing, this program is somewhat of an answer to. And so it's amazing to have a Beis Vad L'Chachamim, a place for people to gather and uncover the wisdom within themselves about how to move a little bit forward. So thank you. And we should all find the Menucha and Nechama and all of the elements we're looking for. The description of the experience between being in Gan Eden and being out of Gan Eden is ultimately the story of our lives. We live in two places in our lives. And ultimately, both of those places are places of perspective. There's the perspective of living in Gan Eden. And when a person lives in Gan Eden, there's a certain element there called Menucha, calmness. And there's living out of Gan Eden. And to be outside of Gan Eden is Yegia, effort, chaos, anxiety, process of worrying, and all of the different things that we do, movement. If Gan Eden is calmness, Menucha, relief, then outside of Gan Eden is going to be chaos, difficulty, struggle. Now, the entire story of our Torah, the entire story of history, that we understand the entire way that Hashem has created the world, and especially what we're feeling nowadays, is the distance between Gan Eden and outside of Gan Eden, between Menucha, calmness, and chaos. We know, and what I'm going to try and do here, because there's so much to speak about in every one of these areas, where it comes from, how it goes, and where it's going to, that to try and comprise it into a small amount of time is difficult. But ultimately, that's the question of Menucha also, to know there's too much to do, to know there's an infinite amount to do, but to also be okay with what we're doing right now. And so what we're going to try and do is give a little bit of tamsutz of what this might mean, and ultimately, we can take from here and begin to grow. But before we go into the question of where Menucha comes from, why it feels so distant from us, and why specifically in our generation we may have the ability to come closer to it, I want to just give a preface that will really be the most important thing about any discussion about Menucha. And that is that Menucha is not a destination that one arrives at. Menucha is not a place that I plug into the GPS, and if I drive carefully enough, I will most certainly arrive there, and I'll be able to unload the baggage that I've been carrying around so long in anticipation of this destination of Menucha. And then I get to put the baggage down and enter into a place of calmness, as if there was nothing to worry about, as if there was nothing to do and nothing to try and grow from. The feeling of Menucha in a place like that would last maybe a second, maybe a second, before a person would come to realize that this is not what I've been searching for. Menucha is not a destination. Menucha is a process. Menucha is a way of becoming calmer in this world. It's not about being calm. Tzaddikim are calm. Tzaddikim are calm. Those are special neshamas that come into the world once in a while and in every generation that represent calmness in its purest form. For everybody else, the process is becoming a little bit more calm. A derech of menucha, trying to find a little bit of comfort, because what we know most certainly, and Coach Menachem in this space has allowed the Jewish people to come closer and to be more okay with this truth, this radical truth, which would have been so difficult and impossible to reveal in previous generations. And that is that Klal Yisrael is tired. We're tired. We're very, very tired. We're tired from the derech. We're tired from the yagia and the burden of it all, and the savlanut and the patience that the Jewish people have had to go through and that we all go through in our day-to-day lives. And when we come to realize that feeling that we're very exhausted, we begin to have machshavos sometimes, thoughts about HaKadosh Baruch Hu, where HaKadosh Baruch Hu is, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu is. We had tzaddikim very close to our generation, Lubavitch Rebbe who said he expressed his frustration, which was a unique thing, that we want Mashiach now. We need it now. And to become aware of the fact that every moment at this point, that Mashiach does not arrive, we have to see ourselves as in a zman of sakanas nefashos mamish. Sakanas nefashos mamish. Every second that true menucha doesn't arrive, it's sakanas nefashos, because we're aware that we're tired, and it's a process to find the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That we became comfortable with the realization that, you know what, the most obvious thing in this world is not to be calm. Sometimes it's very difficult for a person, and sometimes things are overwhelming. And because we've become more aware of the struggle, we've become much more prone and capable of learning how to be calm, of learning the ability to take a break, to let go a little bit, to take ourselves and everything around us a little bit less seriously, to be able to laugh a little bit and find that menuchas emes sha'at rotzeba. But it's a process, and each person is in a process of finding calmness in their own way in each and every moment, in each and every situation. There's a calmness available in each moment. Mashiach is the emergence of calmness, and Mashiach comes in each and every moment. And when we begin to realize that we need menucha right now, we realize that we have the kochos to find menucha. The human being is born into a state of chaos. We're born naturally, our bodies, our minds are disintegrated. And our experience of development in the very quick years and the most fundamental years of development, it's a process of coming from chaos and emerging into a place of calmness. And psychologically speaking, this is what we go through as well at every moment. We encounter a world where there is so much moving, there are so many things taking place in each and every person's life, so many different iterations and possibilities of change, that rachok mimeni menachem meshav nafshi, that comfort, that cohesive sense of I'm okay right now seems so distant from me. And this is the experience of how Hashem created the world. It's called tohu, chaos, movement, and all different types of things bumping into each other, and my feelings and this experience kind of creating a discomfort within myself. That's a state of tohu, of chaos. And the only way for a person to survive, the only way for a person to be able to find dry land, to find HaKadosh Baruch Hu, is to make a decision to enter into a state of menucha. We were kicked out of Ganedan. We were kicked out of Ganedan as human beings who were kicked out of Ganedan. We entered into a place of being chased. The most general sense of the lack of menucha that a person experiences is a sense of being chased by something. There's always something to do, or there's always something that I haven't done. Wherever I am is not where I'm supposed to be. This is the curse of being kicked out of Gan Eden, and this is the curse of Kayin and what it means to be a human being. To always be nov and nad b'toich haaretz, to be wondering where will I find my menucha? If I build my menucha properly, if I build that space properly, I'll finally arrive at where I need to arrive at. And we're always perpetually trying to find the thing that's going to give us the menucha we want, because we're stuck in thinking that menucha is a destination. To be human is to be chaste, that wherever I arrive is to feel, oh, I have to go over there. I'm trying to sit over here. They're doing it over there. How can I be comfortable with where I'm at right now? There's not enough. And so if they have that, then I have this, and I need what they have, and they need what I have. Or I can only be happy this much or that much. And this person and that person and all of the memories and all of the different capital T traumas, lowercase t traumas that affect each and every one of us, they prevent us from ever being in a state of actual calmness. They're chasing us. Wherever we try and sit, we're immediately chased by the thoughts that sit with us when we're most uncomfortable. And it's most difficult because at this point, we have all of the comforts available. Theoretically, we should be in Menucha. We don't have to put much effort in anymore. Everything is prepared for us. Our foods are there, kashrus, everything is available. But in the end of the day, Menucha has never been farther from a person. Because when we sit, we feel we should be elsewhere. And that's the source of being kicked out of Ganedan, to be chased. Always looking behind ourselves, wondering what's chasing me, never realizing that nothing is chasing us whatsoever other than our own minds very often. But we run and we run and we run, and our legs never rest, and our thoughts never rest, and never it's enough, and nothing is ever enough. And the secret of entering back into Gan Eden, the secret of Menucha, is realizing that I'm not running from anything and I'm not running anywhere. There's nowhere to run to, and there's nothing to run from. That where I am right now in this moment, there is a menucha that can be found, because this moment is an expression of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Gan Eden is everywhere. We never actually left Gan Eden, because Gan Eden still exists in the mind, and when the mind decides that it wants to take a deep breath and stop running for a moment, and to allow itself to believe, to pretend that right here, right now, I am okay. The world is okay. Everything is okay. I'm okay. And I start repeating maybe a little bit, I'm okay, I'm okay. And I start saying, you know what, Hashem, I'm okay. I'm okay, I'm okay. And then slowly but surely in that moment of calmness, a person begins to forget the outside, forget that we were ever kicked out of Gan Eden, and enter into a place of ni'imus, of menucha, of calmness, a moment of sweetness in this world, of what Chazal described as seeing one's world in their days. The greatest belief that the Mekubalim and the Tzaddikim wanted to get to, the unity of Hashem in all of its expressions, I believe, and that shouldn't mean much to anybody, it's simply my belief, but I believe that when we draw a moment of calmness into our lives in each and every moment that we possibly can, that as big as a nace as Matan Torah, it's bigger than the avodah of the tzaddikim. Moshe Rabbeinu couldn't understand how it would be possible to find menucha in our generation. He could not understand. The Rebbe Rashab, the fifth Lubavitcher Rebbe, he says as follows, that Hashem showed a book to Moshe, and it was a book of the generations. And Moshe was looking, and he really felt, you know what? I deserve the Torah. I'm Moshe. Moshe understood the secret of being able to write that there was nobody as humble as Moshe, the secret of humility, to own my strengths while recognizing that they are not mine and they have nothing to do with me. And Moshe Rabbeinu is looking throughout the generations, and he says, you know what? I'm okay. I received the Torah. He came to Rabbi Akiva, and that was a little bit. He said, maybe give it to him. And then he understood that Rabbi Akiva learned everything from Moshe. But then he came to our generation, Ikvasa de Mashiach, and he put his head in the sand and he says, I cannot do that. I cannot. There's no possible way that I can do what they're doing. I can't. I'm ashamed to even look at it. The ability to be b'menucha for even a second in this world. Because menucha, the Baal Shem Tov says, is emunah in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to be connected. And we're going to see Be'ezras Hashem, and there's so much to say about menucha. But menucha is not the absence of work. Menucha is not the absence of engagement. That's Shabbos. Shabbos is a different type of menucha. But the menucha that's available to us in every moment is a menucha that exists and continues to exist within the chaos itself, within the busyness. There's no way to break free from the busyness. There's a halacha that on Erev Shabbos, if you're running around in the shuk and you damage somebody's goods, you're not liable because that's the expected nature of things on Erev Shabbos. We live in a generation of Erev Shabbos. And it's chaos. That's the name of the game. That's not accidental. That's how HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted it to be. Because the more chaos, the more incredibly powerful and miraculous the koyach of Menucha. The more tohu, the more shira, the more tikkun and rectification. And we have to believe that to find Menucha is not to sit idly by, but it's to lean into whatever it is that I'm doing. And to carry with myself that tiny stone of the mind, that Evan Masu Abanim Haisel Rosh Pina of Emuna, that which appeared so low for so long, now it's being revealed that if I carry my Emuna with me, if I have a Nakuda of Emuna in each and every moment, that brings the most powerful element of Menucha. And no matter what I'm doing, no matter what I'm going through, no matter what the chaos is, and B'ezras Hashem, it should be the softest and most gentle and pleasant type of chaos. But there is never a moment that is devoid of the possibility of Menucha, of taking a deep breath, of calming oneself, and finding the ability to move ever closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So Menucha is something that can be discussed on a psychological level, on a neurological level, on a spiritual level, a Kabbalistic level, a halachic level. And there's so much that's been written and discussed about it. But B'ezras Hashem, tonight, what I want to try and offer a little bit of is what I'm trying for myself, because I find it so necessary to uncover Menucha, of the elements in my life that enable me to find that Menuchas emes she'atzarot seba, to believe that the Hashem wants Menucha at Shalashudis, at the deepest point of the entire week, Ravid de Ravin. What we're asking Hashem is to give us the Menucha that He wants us to have. Menucha is the tachlis of all things. It's where we come from, it's how we get there, and it's where we're going. And B'ezras Hashem, if we could be the generation that gets to taste it before we actually get served it, so then we'll be the ones who know, and we'll be able to laugh. When Mashiach arrives, we'll say, we're laughing. Why are you laughing? Because we know what you are already. We've tasted you already. You think we're waiting for you. Yes, but we've learned your secret, Mashiach. We've learned the secret of Menucha. And that's how we bring Mashiach closer, B'ezras Hashem. So the questions, whatever the questions are, I'm also going to try and add a little bit more insight about Menucha from various positions so that we get a fuller picture of the concept. B'ezras Hashem.
Morning, Rabbi Joey, beautiful opening. Okay, let's do a poll, and then we'll do some questions. And again, anybody wants to ask a live question, you have Rabbi Joey here. Woke up early morning from Yisrael. He wants to answer everything. We all want to get that clarity. We all want to live in Menucha. So let's jump into it. Okay, start the poll, please. Okay, here we go. 3-question poll. First question. Okay. First question, what's your biggest obstacle to achieving inner calm? What's your personal biggest obstacle? 4 options. Busy work schedules, that's option A. Option B, taking care of the children and dealing with my spouse. Option C, not making enough money. Or option D, I just have general anxiety. I just can't feel calm. Second question, what do you do that is the most helpful in achieving inner calm? What do you actually do to feel calm when you're feeling not calm? First option is davening and learning. Second option is mindfulness and meditation. Third option is exercise and physical activity. The fourth option is talking to a friend or a therapist. Third question, what do you think inner calm actually means? 4 options. We give a lot of options, Menachem. Sitting and relaxing. Is that inner calm? Always being happy inside no matter what is going on. Option C, being grounded and centered in all challenges. Or option D, everything in your life is working out the way you want it to go. That's inner calm. So those are the 3 questions. I'll give you a few seconds to answer. And then we'll share the responses. Joe, you like the polls? They're good?
Cool. Amazing.
They hit some points.
Tools for therapists.
Say again?
These are good tools for therapists.
Yeah. We work with them. Okay, 3 more seconds. Okay, now we're going to end the poll. I'm going to share with everybody, okay? Okay. Share the results. Okay, the first question was, what is your biggest obstacle to achieving calm? Very interesting. 18% of people said busy work schedules. 25% of people says taking care of the children and dealing with my spouse. 15% of people say not making enough money. And the number one answer that most people are saying, over 43% of people are saying, I just have general anxiety. Interesting. Second question, what do you do that's most helpful in achieving inner calm? Literally split across the board, 24% davening and learning, 26% mindfulness and meditation. Only 15% said exercise and physical activity. 36% of the people is talking to a friend or a therapist. Third question, what do you do? What do you think inner calm actually means? Only 3% of the people said sitting and relaxing. 21% of the people said always being happy inside no matter what's going on. But Joey, 71% of the people said being grounded and centered in all challenges. And only 2% of the people, everything in your life is working out the way you want it to go. You want to mention anything? You want to comment on anything before we jump into the questions?
I think these are incredible. I think they're incredible in the sense that people are more aware of where their struggles are coming from, and people are more aware of where the solutions can come from, which is the beginning of the cure, Bezras Hashem.
Take a while. We have a few live questions. We'll jump into live, and then we'll get to the question people sent in. Okay, you're on first.
Hi, good evening. Are you able to hear me well, Rabbi?
Yes, very clear.
Firstly, thank you very much. I've been attending this program for a while. Thank you, Rabbi Rosenfeld. My question is, do you recommend aiming for Menucha Nefesh early morning, let's say early morning after davening, some exercise, or at night when you do Cheshbon Nefesh and you've been through your day? What is the ideal scenario for achieving Menuchat Nefesh? I just want to mention another note tied into my question. I think it's interesting with the results of the poll that there's a large percentage who feel anxiety and a very small percentage who exercise. I personally think that it's a holistic approach with the davening, mindfulness, how we eat, how we exercise to reduce the anxiety. Thank you.
Okay, so amazing question. I think that grounding oneself, there's practice and there's the perspective of it. The perspective of it and the affirmation of in the mind and the decision to try and be menucha should be in the morning and it should be at night. Hamayim b'chol yom tamid, we say. If you do it twice a day, it's as if you're doing it always. So if I do it in the morning at night and I bookmark my day with the perception of it and the awareness, and I turn it into a tefillah that Hashem, give me the ability to find calmness today. Prior to me entering into the world of changes and other people and encounters, let me find that place, that island of menucha, and hold on to it. And then at the end of the day, I take off my baggage of the day, and I'm now saying after by Kriya Shema Lamita, by Cheshbon Nefesh, after any Cheshbon Nefesh, Hashem, you are the source of my menucha. Give me the ability, biyado av kiruchi, give me the ability to find menucha. So, but then during the day is the application. So if a person has practice, if a person has a specific amount of time where they're going through the process of developing menuchas nefesh, whether it be mindfulness or meditation or just sitting, whatever it might be for the person, so then I think that, look, morning is very often more beneficial in terms of the clarity of mind and the ability to experience the practice on an ideal level. And afternoon, by mincha, it's more of the ability to practice the skill under duress. And so both have benefits. I would say wherever a person feels more chaotic, that's where they should apply kind of the practice element of it. And in addition, the goal is to be able to tap into it in bite-sized amounts throughout the day, to sort of microdose, so to speak, on the menuchas hanefesh and the practice, to have the rishimu, the trace of that, so that it's accessible at any moment.
Okay, let's go to the next live question. Okay, hi, you're on.
Hi, Rabbi Rosenfeld. Thank you for taking my question. Living as a Yid, there's just so much out there of Torah and everything. And a lot of us, we just love to be good go-getters and learn. And at the same time, there's a point of experiencing, not just learning. This is my biggest challenge. Like, how do we balance, that shuka and that wanting to know this and to read that and to learn about this and to know all these concepts, and then also to know when to just not to just run and pursue, but to stop, take a break, feel it, and how do we balance properly how much time to put for each?
Okay, amazing question. And it's important to understand that, right? The question of Bakias or Ian is far more than just a sugya and how we learn Torah. It's a way in how we experience life. So any answer in terms of, how does one learn Torah, I believe is you can abstract it and apply it to nearly anything. The Torah is an expression of our lives, just as our lives are an expression of Torah. So the same mechanisms apply to both. So I think it's a great question. We live in a generation nowadays where it's somewhat easier to download information, whether it's klalim svarim. If there's a sugya that I want to understand, I can pick up the general principles of it and develop a certain kind of framework of understanding it. And the limited amount of space that I have to understand any sugya, what I have to ensure is that when I am learning the sugya, I am fully present in the sugya. That is where I find everything. The Torah and life is beyond measure, which means that there will never be a moment in one's life where they will be able to say, I have done enough. We know this from the tzaddikim, who after they finish Shas, they go back to begin Shas. And after they finish everything, they go back to begin everything. Because we learned this from Avram Avinu, that when you reach the 50th gate, all you do is prepare for the next gate. There's never going to be a time where a person can say, Zachisi Levavi, I've done enough. So the only option is to find the enough in whatever I'm doing. And so there's too much to try and answer about, because it would demand a personal understanding of who the person is in terms of what Seder Alimut should be. But the general answer is that whatever it is that I'm doing, whatever sugya I'm learning, I have to see everything in there. Whatever learn of Torah I'm learning, I have to see everything in there. Just like in any experience that I'm experiencing, I have to see every experience in there. And that has to be the ground of it. And then, memela, the shift and the split of time is different. But that's menucha, the ability to be present in whatever I'm doing in that moment and see the world in it.
Thank you so much.
Oh yeah, from Joey. Okay, next live question, you're on. Hi. Hello. You're unmuted. Right. Yeah. Okay, let's jump on to the next live question while they fix that. Okay, Joey, let's ask this. Somebody sent in a question. I always try to stay calm and relaxed before I come home to my children. Sometimes I even rest to prepare myself. However, once I get home, my kids, my wife, all the chaos begins. I slowly begin to lose my composure and become overwhelmed. My question is, shouldn't menucha, tranquility, come naturally and easily? If so, why is it so difficult to maintain when actual chaos and difficulties begin?
Because there's a difference between preparation and experience. Preparation in our minds is where we prepare ourselves for what we're about to encounter. In the encounter with the chaos of children with home, after whatever the busyness of the day has been, at that point, it's a little bit too late for a person to develop a plan of action. The only time that a person is able to experience the preparation, the hachana, is prior to entering into the home, prior to engaging that action. So the longer that I take and the more time I spend to contemplate for a second where I'm entering into, how I'm entering into it, and to identify the fact that in the end of the day, how I react is going to be based on my decision, and to choose to look at the circumstances through my inner perspective, the longer and the deeper the breath I take, the arichas af that I have is going to give me more of an ability to face the incoming situation. And to answer just the second part of the question, it's important, what Panemius Torah teaches us is that the way Hashem created the world is chaos. Chaos is the name of the game. Menucha is the secret. Menucha is not meant to be easy. Menucha is a battle. The most natural thing in this world is to be overwhelmed and overcome and feeling that everything is too much. And it's okay. That's the first thing we have to do. We have to validate and be vulnerable enough with ourselves to accept the fact that it is chaotic. Not to judge ourselves even more because we're judging ourselves for not being calm already. Mamela, we're not calm. So we might as well just experience not being calm and learn how to break free of it and not be stuck in the shame. And so it's important to understand that menucha is the goal, but chaos, tohu, is basically how we naturally experience this world. And every moment that we break free of it is an ace.
Okay, the person before, let's see if it works now. Let's try it now.
Hi.
Hi. Okay, Baruch
Okay.
Hashem.
Okay. My question is, does having a Moon and Bitachon, is that the same as having Menuchas and Nefesh? Or is Menuchas hanefesh indicative of someone who has emunah, or are they both interchangeable?
On the deepest level, they're the same. On the next to deepest level, they're interchangeable. On the most externalized level, it's very possible for many people in the world to find menuchas hanefesh through external things, right? Because, or at least what mimics menuchas hanefesh. So menuchas hanefesh doesn't necessarily emerge from an emunah, although one can say that any Jew, any neshama that has menuchas hanefesh and enters into that place of menucha, no matter how they experience it, in the kodesh hakadashim, in the yichida of the nefesh, a person is maybe touching the or of menucha kitov. But in our generation, we understand very well, everyone is searching for menucha. That's a vada true. But unfortunately, the closer we get to Mashiach, the technologies of existence, different things, create more of a mimicry of menucha. And so menucha nowadays and calmness can very often look like one thing, and it doesn't mean that a person is functioning in the best place necessarily. So I think we have to check. When a person finds themselves in menucha, pulls man that it's not rooted in some external cause or addiction that's driving that menucha, I think one can trust the menucha. So that's the distinction I would make.
Okay, next question. Hi, Sarah.
Hi. I tend to be rather anxious by nature, but I find that a lot of it, at least with me, comes from a feeling of helplessness. You know, I can be overwhelmed by a lot of things, and I'm not sure at times if I'm making the right decisions. Maybe if I'm, when I say mental clarity, it's not so much a mood of it. Am I looking at the thing correctly? Am I making the right choices? And even after I make a decision, I'm not, it's so sure that it's the right thing. How would I gain self-confidence in that area?
Sure. Well, what I would say, Chayasar, just from your description of the question, I would say that you can have confidence in yourself, because that's a very clear way of describing and framing the question, and really the question that we're all searching for. So menuchas hanefesh is not about whether something is true or not. This is a very important point, right? Emunah means that it is something beyond the necessities to ensure its truth in order for it to be valuable. I believe that the gift of emunah, the gift of menuchas hanefesh, the gift of the relief from, it's not a relief from the physiological symptoms of anxiety. It's not a relief from the reality of anxiety. All of us live within that person in accordance with their own measure. And so the secret over here is coming to realize that when I feel menucha, that's enough. I could believe in the menucha. I don't have to question the calmness. My natural posture is to assume that I'm meant to feel insane. I'm meant to feel crazy. I'm meant to be boggled in every moment. That's the avoda of what we refer to as the Yetzer Hara or Paro, who places busyness upon us to ensure that we never believe the capacity to enter into a state of menucha that is always existent in front of us. So memela, naturally, any way that brings us to menucha, any choice to be b'menucha, it's not a question of whether it's true or not. If I feel b'menucha, then I could trust it.
I think we should back up for a second. If we can understand what we're looking for. I don't know if you could explain it. It's a feeling, but what exactly we're looking for. And I think this is like somebody's asking a very basic question. I have 4 kids under the age of 6. While I'm grateful for my kids, Baruch Hashem, it is challenging for me to find time to take care of myself. It feels like an endless cycle of work. I really got a break. Is it possible for me to find some menucha? So the question is, what is it? What are we looking for? I don't know how you can describe it, but
sure. So first off, it's
let me clarify. Menucha means that I have a vacation. I go to Florida for a week by myself. I'm sitting by the beach. Does menucha mean that I'm just feeling content, even though I'm dealing with everything? And then the follow-up question is going to be how to actually do that. In the concept, it sounds cute. Well, Lamaisa, how do you do when you're dealing with extremely stressful situation?
Sure, absolutely. So each and every person has their own definition of menucha, but generally speaking, menucha is the ability to pay attention to what it is that I'm doing right now, to identify the task in front of me in whatever framework that it has, without allowing external needs, external possibilities that are not present in this moment right now to distract.
Would you define it as what they say in DBT therapy, being present?
I'm not an expert on DBT therapy. I know that dialectical behavioral therapy is rooted in the deepest of places, but being present is ultimately the pathway. Being present is how it's the price to pay to show up to life. Menucha, before a person can ask what the feeling of menucha is, they have to understand what the opposite of menucha is. So in whatever that chaotic feeling is, the movement out of that is the menucha. That's the best definition I can give to what menucha is. It's the opposite of whatever that general burden that each and every person carries around feels. In those moments of Shabbos, that's the answer to what menucha is. But what it presents itself as naturally is a slowness of thought, a precision of thought, freedom from ruminations, which are the things that chase us most intensely in our lives, and all of those chaotic thoughts. So it's a calmness of the mind that is able to choose not necessarily what it wants to think about, but what it doesn't necessarily want to pay too much attention to. I'm not talking about meditating on one idea, but I have the presence of mind to not focus on the negative thoughts and memories and to travel down those rabbit holes of my mind. So I'm present, I'm paying attention. And then my body, I mean, look, the body keeps score, we understand, right? So to begin to speak about menucha in the body, I'm talking about the abstract concept of menucha because it's much easier to start from the klal and then maybe taste a little bit of it. But to work from the body up, I mean, that's the work of our generation. That's the work of our generation, to breathe, to eat properly, to be healthier. So I'm not talking about the body right now, but menucha means not to be in tension, right? Not to feel like, I'm on the cusp of a panic attack or that I'm on the cusp of, needing to take a nap, but to allow the body to feel present in it and not to be angry, not to be annoyed at anybody. Being annoyed is the opposite of menucha.
So if I'm experiencing those thoughts, ruminating, and it's going on, and I don't know what to do. What do I do?
So it's a good question. So we're not talking about the different categories of where that comes from or how that comes from, but in the moment itself, right? Where it's not the answer, it's not an SSRI, and it's not this or that, but we're talking about on the equal playing field of each and every person in accordance with where they find themselves, that point and that feeling where I don't think that I can continue. I can't find calmness here. Every moment of chaos, that anxiety that we feel is a feeling of the ground is about to crumble underneath on one level or another. On one level or another, hopefully not so intense. In that moment, look, the only thing to do is to attach oneself to the source of their menucha. Menucha is grounded in something. What allows me to be truly b'menucha is my belief that there's a source of that ultimate menucha. Now, that source of ultimate menucha is not necessary for me to be aware of it. Sometimes, like we said before, the goal is to just have menucha because I have to survive. But in the moments where I just can't, I have to attach myself to that place in my mind that is the source of the miraculous. That is the place that reveals within me the more that I did not know that I had. That ability to carry on, to be mamshich, that od ma'at ve'ein rasha, to break open the limit that stands in front of me and to uncover the fact that I have more. That's the place that menucha comes from. Rabbi Menachem, the best example I want to give to this, it's a funny example, but on the old BlackBerry phones, what I had discovered as a teenager is that if the phone went below 3% battery, you couldn't place a phone call. You couldn't place a phone call. But if you were to dial emergency services, there was some clause, I don't know, some backup battery that by calling 911, you would re-up the battery to 3% and it would enable the phone call to be placed. So I discovered if you dialed that number and then hung it up immediately, now the phone had the battery power, but you also didn't, create any chaos. And I think that each person experiences that countless moments a day, where we discover the ability to do what I didn't think I could do. This is the secret of recovery from addiction. This is the secret of calmness in the sight of anger. This is the secret of holding my breath a little bit longer, of eating a little bit more patiently. This is the God's secret, the ability to be present in that moment, to draw it in, to connect to the shorish of my menucha.
Believe I have a little bit more.
I have a little bit more, a tiny bit more. It's irreducible. I can't measure it. But there's no scenario imaginable where that little bit more is not accessible. That's the secret of Emunah, the little bit more. The od ma'at ve'ein rasha. There is a place somewhere under the filth, under the self-shame, under the judgment, under the hopelessness. There is always an irreducible sight of od ma'at, a little bit more. Ad v'ad b'chlal.
I'm a little bit concerned. I feel a little bit of anxiety if somebody's overwhelmed. There's so much going on, pushing themselves. And the idea of just don't stop, continue just a little bit more. It's like,
Okay, amazing, right? But okay, so you're right. That's the gullus. I want to call it the gullus mentality, and it's what's referred to as choivlim, machshava, meaning it's not about chutz la'aretz or Eretz Yisrael. Eretz Yisrael is a very real place. I can tell you that. My feet know it the most. But it's a very real place, and it's a different place. But in general, there's also a concept that Eretz Yisrael and chutz la'aretz are mindsets as well. The mindset you're describing is a chutz la'aretz mindset, which is referred to as choivlim, where, I have a little bit more, so I have to push and push and push and cover ground, right? I remember hearing in 4th grade, like, cover ground before ground covers you. I don't have to explain where the traumas come from. If I heard that from a Rebbe, like, Kilu, I'm being chased and I have to run and run and run. The secret is that the od ma'at, it's b'menucha. I'm not running anywhere. I can't look. I can have mehirus. I can have zrizus. I can be speedy. I can cover ground. I can be incredibly fast with menucha. Menucha doesn't mean not covering ground. It's something the tzaddik, my Rebbe, refers to as zrizus b'mesinos. It's what the Baal Shem Tov refers to as zrizus b'mesinos, as calmness in the heart of speed. So the od ma'at means, there's enough of a belief in that inner space of calmness that I can tap into that quiets everything down. I don't get rid of the chaos. Menucha doesn't get rid of all of the riboy different things that I need to cover, but it offers me a taste of that silence in the heart of it, and I could just say shah to it for a second and create space and like gain a little bit more perspective, and then re-attack the problem from a different perspective. That's the od ma'at. It uncovers more with it.
Tapping into that ma'at, that's that calmness. The ma'at is, and then being able to continue with a
or knowing it's there. Or knowing it's there. We'll always be running and returning, always be entering and exiting. That's the secret of it all. The whole secret of the Zohar HaKadosh, the whole secret of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, Rabbi Akiva, is that a person has to learn how to enter and exit. There are some people who want to enter into a state of calmness without any descent. We see that in our generation, and it's a dangerous thing. We know where that leads. There's no such thing as an ascent without a descent. The secret of being a yid, the secret of having a neshama, the secret of being a person in this world is the ascent and the descent. So to tap into that place and to believe in that place of menucha, to carry my makom menucha with me, whether or not I'm actively engaged in it, that itself will provide menucha. The belief in menucha provides menucha. The same way that ani ma'amim be'emuna shalema, I believe in emuna. Ani ma'amim be'emuna shalema, even when I don't have emuna, I believe in my emuna. I believe in my capacity towards menucha, and that already is a taste of the menucha itself. This is the core of what you see in the Kavanos and Kabbalah, that prior to the emergence of something, the knowledge of it is already the ability to taste it in a real way. It's not the real thing. It doesn't matter. It's a real fake thing. It's accessible to us right now.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Rosenfeld, we're a worldwide program. Okay, Rabbi AY. Rabbi AY from the UK. Let's go.
Okay, thank you very much, Rabbi Rosenfeld, for being on today. My question is, the way I see that menucha is, being content and being okay with the situation as to what is it. For instance, if you're stuck in a traffic jam, this is where Hashem wants me to be. I'm okay with that. That's fine. Now, when do you consider it as to be a menucha, and when do you consider it to be a yish? You've got no options, so okay, I'll just accept it as it is.
And Avram Yosef, MS, on one level they're the same. On one level they're the same. On one level they're the same. But we'll start before I answer. I mean, look, your question is an exceedingly deep one and a significant one. But on a practical level, kol zman that the Yesh is not leading to any destructive elements in one's life, then like halavai, because that's just another way of describing Emunah. And again, I wanna keep close to your question.
You've got the muscle. It says a pasuk by Yosef. Vayisham b'veis You know, the Spasama says, you know, he was there, and that's where Hashem wanted to be, and that's where he was. You know, he was okay with that. You know, the same. He based on Amidst, the same thing. You know,
but so I want to answer. I want to try and answer the first question, Avram Yosef, because believe me, I know that we could verbring. But the question here that I want to try and answer is that there's two levels of Yesh. There's a hopelessness in my ability to control a scenario. And then there's, God forbid, a hopelessness from redemption or godliness. So Rabbi Nachman says there's two things. It's forbidden to lose hope, and losing hope is an impossibility. Forbidden implies that there's an isser, meaning to say, in every situation, I don't want to be miyayish. I have to always hold out that things are going to turn out to be the best. But there's still always a thought in my mind that it's because I'm going to make it the best. And then a person comes to a place of yayish, of hopelessness, of powerlessness, where they realize that it's not me. I'm not the one who's able to do this. At that point, that yayish is almost equivalent with a certain element of menucha. You talk to people in recovery from the harshest addictions, and you ask them, you know, what was the place? What did you feel after revealing what you needed to reveal? The descriptions there, I believe, are the closest we can sometimes come to menuchas emes sha'atar otzeba, a feeling that there's nothing to hide anymore. There's nothing to hide. That comes from a certain element of yayish as well, of letting go and letting God, as they say, and revealing that. I think the other yayish, the one that leads to utter abject hopelessness, is one that doesn't exist anyway, and we have to run away from it like fire.
Right.
Okay, Rabbi Rosenfeld, somebody texted this question. I'm going to read it, okay? I'm constantly working myself in therapy. I suffer from child emotional neglect. I feel extremely lonely often, irritable with my husband and children. Any tips how to find menucha with all these difficulties?
Can I ask you to repeat the question one more time? I just want to hear all the words.
I'm constantly working on myself in therapy. I suffer from childhood emotional neglect. I feel extremely lonely often, and I'm irritable with my husband and my children. Any tips on how to find menuchas nefesh with dealing with these type of difficulties?
Yeah, in situations, it's a hard question. In situations like this, and this situation will be used to describe other situations like this, there are times where a person's inability to find menuchas hanefesh begins to create ripple effects externally. Now, we know from parenting, we know from, quantum theory, however you want to look at it, that even though we're not actually engaged in an action, there can still be a repercussion in reality, in spite of the fact that we can't see it. And so all the more so when it becomes clear that as a result of our lack of menucha, our lack of center, it's beginning to affect and erode and create ruptures in other people's lives. The avoda there sometimes, as backwards as it sounds to the person who's experiencing the lack of menucha, is to try and minimize the crisis I'm causing to others, to be cognizant of the effect that my feelings have on others. And then that's a way of coming to a place of learning how to work on my inner emotion. Meaning, you would never say to a person who's in an emotional turmoil to the extent that their absence of menuchas nefesh is impacting how they parent and how they're a spouse. You would never say to a person like that, oh, deal with other people's reactions and then everything will be fixed. That's never how you deal with an emotional issue. But there are certain times where if I am so far from being able to find that place of comfort, all I can do is feign calmness. I can pretend to be calm. And the way that I pretend to be calm, the way that I pretend to experience that calmness is usually with other people. It'll be much harder to pretend to be calm to myself. So when I'm with other people who my lack of calmness is affecting, I can use it as an opportunity to say, for the next 5 minutes, I'm going to be calm. I'm going to take deep breaths. I'm not going to raise my voice with my children, even though in my mind I'm going crazy. And then a miracle happens that I realize that, if I've been faking it all along anyway, then it's possible to me, and then I can learn how to develop it internally.
Beautiful. Okay, let's go on to this question. Very interesting question, different angle. I understand the importance of taking time to relax and definitely need it as I'm constantly overwhelmed and overworked. However, deep down, I believe that I'd rather be busy, the opposite, wants to be busy and overworked. However, deep down, I believe that I'd rather be busy and overwhelmed than sit in one place and be calm. I'm not sure what causes this feeling, but I have a fear of stopping. I went through some things as a younger child. I don't want to go into it now, but just Agav saying that. So that Mitzvah is a person
So only us Yidden will say that. Okay, I'll ask the question of, and this is Gans Klal Yisrael 6. I'll ask the question of why is it so hard? Why is it so hard? I don't know why it's so hard for me. I don't know why it's so hard for me. Agav, like this is exactly why it's so hard for me, but that's not really part of the question. So we have to be compassionate on ourselves.
Hey, there's some childhood stuff there. He doesn't want to get into it.
Right, but like Ki'ilu, like. I ask clients sometimes, like, what happened? Nothing happened. I just, there was a divorce when I was 3, and I was like, wait, nothing happened. Things happen. And but MS, it's a good question. I just want to pause and think and gather my thoughts for a second. I think that, look, like I was saying earlier, and this takes us back to the Torah behind the idea of Menucha. We live with a constant sense of being chased, which means that anytime we allow ourselves to be calm and not move is a vulnerable moment of being able to be attacked by whatever it is that we're afraid of. And each person has their own name, their own word, their own sense of what it feels like that is chasing us. We're convinced that the moment I allow my legs to stop moving as fast as they can, or I stop worrying, then the thing is going to attack me. You find this in anxiety. This is like the deepest, most anxious part of anxiety. I'm talking clinical also because anxiety is a spectrum, but I'm talking in a general framework. I'm putting anxiety in scare quotes here. That what anxiety is a fear of the unknown. Anxiety is an anticipation of the unknown. What anxiety somehow does is it also somehow makes the past unknown also, which is a chiddush because usually depression and sadness occupies the past. But anxiety as a way of making you anxious sometimes about things that are really over with. But anxiety is aware that something unknown can attack at any moment. Time, space, other people. But we have a natural ability to be afraid. Being afraid of something is a natural defense mechanism. It's a fundamental necessity. Yira is a fundamental thing. Because when I know what I'm afraid of, I know how to react to it. I know what I have to do, and I know how to plan my attack, and I know how to plan my preparation against it. And once I've prepared, I'm no longer afraid. I'm not afraid anymore. I'm careful, but I'm not afraid. Anxiety is the feeling of being afraid. Ki'ilu, there's something to be worried about. There's something to plan against. But when I look around to figure out how to plan or how to react, there's nothing there because ultimately anxiety is not about something specific, but it's a diffuse sense of worry that is always in search of an object. And therefore, when I approach somebody and someone approaches a person who knows anxiety well, which is so many more of us than we choose to admit. And this is another fundamental conversation that I'm sure has been taking place on Coach Menachem and will continue. But when I say to a person, are you anxious about, what are you anxious about? There's nothing to be worried about. Are you worried about relationships? No, but now I am. Are you worried about finances? No, but now that you mention it, I am also. Because everything is a potential suspect to become the vessel of anxiety. But when anxiety looks how to plan, it comes up empty-handed, and therefore there's nothing to do in the face of the unknown. So you're stuck in between a rock and a hard place. There's the preparation that I feel, the anticipatory dread over some incoming doom, and the paralysis of how to respond to it because there's no actual fear for me to respond to. So what anxiety says is, I know what I can do. I can worry about it. In the absence of anything else to do, I can worry about it. And anxiety is almost like the deepest form of anxiety is an anxiety over not being anxious. Because if I'm not anxious, that means, oh my gosh, what am I not prepared for? What am I not waiting for? What am I going to be surprised by right now? So I think in order to kind of extrapolate the concept, I think that many of us are terrified of sitting or resting because we're terrified of what we're going to come to find. And that's very often where we know the first top 10, 12 layers of shame that we carry. The ones that we've come to live with, the ones we've accepted as, fundamental to our identity, we've developed those. And we know there's layers and layers and layers. We know the Yetzer has no limit. And so it's scary for a person to sit. It's scary for a person to allow themselves to be present because we're afraid of what we might find. And we say, we're like an Eved Ivri, where we say, Ahavti as Adoni, I prefer to live with my master. I prefer to live with the anxiety and the perpetual movement of the mind and the speediness of the mind, where I don't allow myself to rest because it's calmer than the unknown. But what a person has to uncover is to realize that first and foremost, whatever the unknown thing is, it already happened. We already broke. When Hashem created us, we were broken. That's how Hashem wanted to create us. There's nothing to run from. There's nothing to run from anymore. We've survived death on a collective level. Each and every yid, every moment that they wake up in the morning, every moment of emunah is nitzchias. There's nothing to be afraid of. The Gra writes mufurish, we already died. We already died. We're waiting for Tchias HaMesim at this point. Klal Yisrael is the belief that life continues even after. We're alive. We're like Yitzchak Avinu, dead and alive at once. It's a miracle. It's what's so funny about us. And so we don't have to worry so much about what the outcome is going to be. We're here. And when I find Menucha in that moment, to be present and to realize nothing is chasing me, we realize, Ach toiv v'chesed yudefuni kol yemei chayai. Yudefuni kol yemei chayai. Only goodness and calmness has been chasing me all along. I was always chased, but I come to realize that it's been goodness and calmness. And then I can sit with myself, and whatever I uncover, if something is a problem, then I talk about it.
So you're saying it could be it's just a thought. What he's running away from. Everybody has their things, but it can be just a thought.
Look, thank you for saying that, Coach Menachem. This conversation, while applicable to the categories of capital T traumas, is by no means the way that a person confronts or deals with the initial elements of a capital T trauma. And that's something that I should have introduced this topic with, but we're saying it now, and it's part of the process of learning to make introductions when it's a little bit late also, is that this is a way of coping with work that one has already done, or levels of mental discomfort that are not disruptive to the day-to-day experience of one's life. Meaning to say that this work is always present, but sometimes there's much more that needs to be done in order to create the possibility. And also to keep in mind that there's some people who have a handicap enough that the menucha is inaccessible. Anytime menucha is inaccessible to a person, it's not that they don't have shaykhs to menucha, it's just that there's a boulder that stands in the way, or a crisscross that needs to be fixed prior to a person's ability to enter that place.
So a person that's keeping himself busy, and he knows that he doesn't want to stop, like we discussed, and he's always busy. So in a way, he might think, okay, so, what's wrong? I know I have things that I don't want to go there, I don't want to talk about it, and I'd rather be busy. And the question is, what would we tell him, even though he thinks his life is managing, but it's probably having issues in other places.
Sure.
Or we want to help him, hold his hand, and take him to somebody who can help him.
Yeah, you want to gently. There's many people, and this speaks to the Ankshe Oref element of ourselves and the Emuna Atzmi that we carry, the deep belief in self. We have to learn how to allow the heart to break in the healthiest of ways in order for us to begin to taste the sweetness of Avodas Hashem. And the heartbreaking is the recognition that there is something loy b'seder. There's something that's just a little bit off in terms of my priorities or my ability to be present. And when a person comes to realize that presence is the commodity that we're searching for, and it's all we've ever had, which is the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, presence. So everything else, a person realizes that they've been enslaved. Their addictions look like work. First and foremost, Rabbi Tversky spent a lot of time in his early career identifying one of the entry points of his real interest into the Jewish community in particular was through the professional realm of people struggling with addictions, where he wrote about the correspondence and the correlation between workaholism and alcoholism. Meaning that to a certain degree, it's no different than any other addiction. But the question you're asking, I believe, is what happens when there's an addiction that's not creating destruction, rather it's paying for yeshivos. It's building buildings. Now, there are certain neshamos that are meant to just be poel. But I think a person has to always be able, if a person can't give themselves a break, if a person can't carve out 10 minutes out of the hour, then there's a certain stuckness. And when and you want to give a person a feeling that you can taste life. It's not, you're gonna be punished if you're not b'menucha. You're missing out on Ganedan. You're missing out on Oilamecha Tera B'chayecha. This is how Chazal would say goodbye to one another. See your world in your days. And Nebuch, there's a lot of people who are, all of us perhaps, I can only speak for myself, but who are wandering and unable to find our worlds. But we're coming to know that they exist, and we're coming to believe in our inner worlds, and the belief that when I enter a room, and I see that mezuzah, and I put my hand on the mezuzah, and I think about the name of Hashem associated with mezuzah, Shin Daled Yud, Shakai. The Gemara says it's two things. One is that Hashem said stop to the world, and one is that there's enough. There's enough godliness for everybody. There's enough light for everybody. And when I enter into a room, I'm saying there is enough in this room for me right now. There's enough of what I need in life, in existence. And Maisa Bereshis and Maisa Merkava and Via Mashiach is all for this moment right here. And if I have that mindset, then when I enter into the room and it's the 4 kids screaming or the 10 kids screaming and the mess and this, there's just a little bit less of a chaos. Doesn't mean I'm like, this is beautiful, but I'm less likely to lose my mind completely.
So you're saying it's number one, that he's missing a little bit of life, which is number one reason he should go for help. But the other thing is also the generational trauma. He's trying to continue as much as possible, but he can't give it over to he's giving it over to his kids.
Believe me, our children pick up on our inner chaos like radars, and the best way to know is when your children are frustrating you. Well, the person, it's a very delicate, balanced relationship that it's a process. But I think always one of the entryways into therapy, sometimes if a person is not in a state of disaster, is to realize that I'm impacting my children as well.
Mm-hmm.
But so there's a feeling of always needing to move, always needing to have enough food in the house, always needing to have enough money in the wallet. There's reasons for this. We all know what it was like to be by our grandparents or our parents. We know where that comes from. We'd be crazy not to feel that way. So Menucha is a funny thing for a Yid. Are you going to tell me to stop? You're going to tell me to relax? There's Rav Meyer says in Purim an amazing thing. He says ultimately a Yid has to learn how to live with two perspectives that are true at once. One is that I'm always chasing the bus. There's a train just about to leave, and I'm chasing after it. And I'm trying to get on, and I know that I have to have zrizas to push myself. And I want to get on that train with every ounce. But at the same moment, not at a different moment, but in the same mind, in the same chambers of the heart, to realize that I'm already on the train. I'm already sitting on the train that I'm chasing after. There's nowhere to run to. Hashem is here. Hashem is there. Hashem is everywhere. And when I think with a little bit of emunah, there's nowhere to run to. And be'emes, the only time that I wouldn't tell a person to do this is, God forbid, in moments of emergency. Where pikuach nefesh is doicha, the Torah. This is what Torah is. Torah is Hashem tamima meshivas nafesh. It restores my spirit. It gives me comfort. It allows me to breathe in this world. Zok the Ishbitzer, that if I don't feel that I'm missing something and that I need my neshama returned to me, then I'll never know what the Torah is. I'll never know.
Mm-hmm.
And that gives us the access to Shabbos. Meaning Shabbos, we actually get to taste the Menucha.
So that's somebody sent in a question about Shabbos. I'll just read it. We often see the word Menucha tied to Shabbos in the Gemara and the Davening. While I understand the concept that Shabbos is meant to be a day of rest and relaxation, any Yom Tov or a day off can offer the same benefits. What is special about the connection between Shabbos and Menucha?
The Rashi says already what was missing before Shabbos, Maha Olam Chaser, what was the world missing? It was missing Menucha. And there's ways to read it that the feeling of there's something missing is the absence of Emunah, of Menucha. Shabbos, the difference between Menucha on other days and Menucha on Shabbos is that Shabbos itself is the Menucha. Meaning to say Shabbos is a reality. And on Shabbos, I don't need to actually feel that way in order for it to be true. On Shabbos, the day demands from me that I feel differently and that I orient my mind from the moment that I'm conscious to the moment I put myself to sleep at night, and each moment that I can to live a life of presence, to be calm, to force it. Shabbos is survival. Shabbos is when there's so nothing left that I come into Shabbos and I'm in a place of menucha. I'm in a place, an ir miklat, where it exists, where Shabbos is the menucha. It's the ability for each Yid to have something to look forward to. And the more a person taps into Shabbos, the more a person comes to believe that there's nowhere to run to. There's nothing to do. Shabbos forces us into that place. The rest of the week, it's a choice. Any other yontif, it's a choice to be b'menucha. Shabbos says you don't have another option. You are going to sit here with me. So Hashem saying, I see what you're doing during the week. I'm watching you every second. I see the intensity and the speed in which you're moving and preparing. And what you don't understand in depth is that you're always preparing for Shabbos. This is what Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai came to understand, that every ounce of effort we put into the week and the chaos of the week is in truth preparation for Shabbos. But Shabbos is the gift that Hashem gives to us, where it says that you don't have another option. Shabbos came in front of Hashem and says, I don't have a bas zug. And Hashem says, you know who else doesn't have a bas zug? It's Knesset Yisrael. What's the feeling of not having the zivug? It's a feeling of imenucha. It's a feeling of not being calm. And it's a feeling, Shabbos says, oh my gosh, you're going to make them work Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday like this? How are they going to survive? How's a human being meant to survive? And Shabbos is the realization that we need the punchline of the joke to be told to us sometimes, because it's so easy to forget that Hashem is present. Shabbos is the time where we're forced to be in menucha, where we don't move outwards. And halavai, and unfortunately and naturally, Shabbos itself for many people, and the home itself is sometimes the most chaotic place. But within each and every home, there's a room, and with each and every room, there's a chair, and with each and every chair, there's a person, and with each and every person, there's a place in the mind that is able to find that place of Shabbos no matter what. And when I uncover that place of Shabbos in my mind, Memela, the room starts to change, and the house starts to change, and the city starts to change. Every other day, it's I have to mamish work at it to feel it. Shabbos, it's doing the work even if I don't feel it.
We actually had a whole show with Rabbi Kalish on Shabbos, and he explained that Shabbos itself comes memela. You don't even have to do anything.
That's why the Arizal says, how does Hashem is Makayim the mitzvahs? In whatever level that means. So how is Hashem Makabel the mitzvah of paying a day worker their daily wages? If we know that this world is not a place of schar, we don't get paid in this world. So how does Hashem Makayim the mitzvah of paying the day wages, of biyomo titein scharo, that you should pay them in their day? It's Rosh Tevo Shabbos. Shabbos is the gift of Olam. It's Olam Haba melting into our minds. It's not Olam Haza Shabbos. It's where the boundary between the two begin to fray. But the secret of our generation and the secret of Menucha is that we always realize that Hayom Yom Rishon b'Shabbos, Hayom Yom Sheni b'Shabbos, Shlishi b'Shabbos. We begin to understand the Gemara that says that a person who's lost in a desert and doesn't know what is what and which day is which day, whether it's Sunday or whether it's Saturday, and that's where we're at, Be'eretz Sia Bidli Mayim, in a midbar, which is where we receive the Torah, in a point at the end of history where we're ready for Mashiach. And in that place, in the midbar, it's specifically there that we find Shabbos, that we find Menucha.
Okay, let's go to the next question. You're on.
Hi. I have a question. Basically, when you mentioned about people being so busy and whatever, so I know someone who is they're always on their phone. They're kind of I guess trying to distract themselves. And then my question is whenever we try to actually ask them questions oh, what do you think about this? They're just oh, I don't know. When you get to feelings, I guess they don't really want to get to a certain spot. And even going to therapy, they're just I don't know. My question is how much could you actually force someone to open up and try to help them in that way that if they don't want to, and then you yourself are just getting all upset about it. Yeah. Thank you for your question. The only there's one disclaimer and then one general answer. If it's a child under your care or somebody who is in a state of not being able to care for themselves and can't make decisions for themselves, then there are ways, obviously, are ways of pushing one's own feeling and offering your insight to another person. But once a person is not asking and they're bardas, there's really nothing that a person can do other than being compassionate, patient, create boundaries in whatever level need to be created, but
being forced, compulsion does not operate in ruchnius or health. It doesn't, unless it's an element of the body where you have to call, where you have to force a person. But beyond that, it's not our responsibility or our ability to push another person to do anything. They have to come to a place on their own. You can help by pointing out the areas in their lives that their behaviors are affecting you, or affecting others, or affecting dependents and things like that. That is obviously because that's a person's own life and how they're being affected. And we always have the ability to respond. The person who is being affected has the ability to go to therapy and has the ability to go to speak to people. But pushing and forcing an individual to open up is not something that I've really ever seen as working.
Right. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, Roosevelt, let's take the Shabbos in a little twist the other way, okay?
Sure.
I understand that Shabbos is a day that correlates with Menucha, but I must be honest and vulnerable. My hardest day of the week is Shabbos, and I often dread the weekends. While I appreciate the special meals and the food, I don't experience the rest and relaxation that comes with Menucha. Instead, I find it quite boring, unstimulating. I struggle with being at home for various reasons. I would rather work and do my regular routine. What could be the reason for my discomfort at home? What could I do to change that?
Sure. So I think with regards to the reason for the discomfort at home is also what we answered previously. But in addition, it's that we're not busy with electronics, technology. We're not busy with how busy our minds have become, meaning not to speak about, the rapid fire level of information that crosses the threshold of every mind at every moment, to the degree that we're in a trance-like state of being intoxicated on information to a certain degree. And so it's naturally very, very difficult. And boredom, again, for an adult is just the discomfort of being with myself. That's what boredom is. It's a need for distraction. And so that answer is a much broader answer of why a person is afraid of confronting the self. But let's talk about the Aseh Tov element of it. I think that everyone would agree that Shabbos is long. And so thankfully, Chazal have broken Shabbos up into really three elements. There's three meals of Shabbos. Shabbos is identified really by the meal time. There's Friday night, which is its own particular expression. There's Shabbos morning, which is its own particular expression, which kind of culminates by Musaf, and then you go through the Shabbos meal, and then Be'ezras Hashem, whatever rest the person is able to find, physical, mental, emotional, and then you have Shalosh Shuddis, which is kind of the departure of Shabbos, and then Malav Malka is the ability to realize that Shabbos never actually ends. Havdalah, as the Mekubalim say, is in truth the highest level of Shabbos, because you realize that just like the Jewish people, Shabbos survives its own death. That's why Atachon and Tanu, Rav Shemayr points out, is the lashon of chasana. That's where the marriage takes place, where you realize that, okay, it's okay to separate right now because we're connected. And but I think that identifying one time zone that works for a person, where a person finds, the most menucha, where the person finds the most focus, because forget about trying to occupy oneself. There, the answer is find the good, find books, find svarim to read biographies. There's such a plethora of books right now of Kedusha and these articles about the history of the support of Torah institutions, and you can read the essays about the Rogatsh, anything. There's no shortage of what to read. There's no shortage of what to read and to walk and to do. But in terms of finding Kedusha Shabbos, to have a Nikud of Shabbos that one looks forward to, I believe is to identify one time zone of Shabbos and to learn a little bit about it, and to focus a little bit more on that meal, perhaps to save something unique for that meal, or to develop one type of, thinking pattern you want to cultivate for that meal. And that way you'll have something to look forward to for Shabbos. That's a beginning of an answer.
Mm-hmm. Here's an interesting question the other way. The way I see it is that we're not meant to be calm and peaceful in this world. He writes, Bikesh Yaakov Leishiv B'Shalva. That idea, but it's not our purpose to be shalva. We're here to work and hopefully in the next world, although I don't know what will be in that world. And he's asking if he's right or wrong. Please help me understand.
Right. So I have a way of understanding this question of Bikesh Yaakov Leishiv B'Shalva. That, look, the Metzias of the Welt is the opposite of Menucha. which is why Rav Tzadok points out that Chazal, right, when they say that a person goes to the next world, the language that they use is noyach nafshe, that their soul found rest. This world is a makom of yegia. That's how it's meant to be. That's how it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be intense. That's the tachlis. That's how Hashem created us, to find Him specifically here. But the unique ability of being a yid and having a neshama and being able to live with the secret of emunah, which is the incomprehensible unity of paradox that we can never truly understand, is the ability to have shalva. And Yaakov understood this. And Yaakov says, "Bikesh Yaakov leishev b'shalva." So here's Yaakov says, "I want to sit in calmness." So Hashem says, "Yeah, you want to know the secret of calmness? Kufza alav rugza di Yosef." At that moment, the chaos of Yosef jumped upon him. So there's two ways to learn this. And usually we think, okay, Yaakov asked the wrong question and Hashem punishes him. God forbid, right? Like, oh, you want calmness? No, here's the biggest trauma of your life as of yet. And you've gone through stuff, Yaakov. And God forbid to read that way. The way I like to understand it is, Bikesh Yaakov leishiv b'shalva. Yaakov wanted to sit in calmness, and Hashem says, okay, I'm going to teach you the secret of calmness, because the secret of calmness is the ability to be calm specifically in the Rugza di Yosef, in the chaos of the world. That's what Menucha is. Menucha's emesh atar atzeba is a Menucha of being in this world, of living in the Rugza di Yosef, in the intensity and the imbalance and the suddenness of all things. Hashem is giving Yaakov the ability to find Shalva. You want to know the secret of Shalva? You want to know what it means to sit in Shalva? Here are struggles and processes that you're going to have to go through. And the secret is learning to be calm within them, learning to breathe, learning to be present in front of it. Menucha is not ignoring the chaos of life. Being a Yid is not ignoring the chaos of life. Being a Yid is transforming the chaos of life and realizing that, wait a second, there's nothing that's not you, Rabbeinu Shleilam. And therefore the chaos has to be you as well. And if the chaos is you as well, then the chaos is just there to create a deeper level of menucha. What's referred to in Chassidus as oiris de tohu b'kelim de tikkun, lights of chaos within vessels of rectification. The ability to live with that busyness, but to realize that I'm calm right here, right now.
Mm-hmm. Okay, another question. I try to stay calm and in my circles and personal life, but everywhere I turn, the news, wherever I hear people talking about the dangerous, crazy stuff happening in the world, and it honestly scares me and gives me anxiety. I try to avoid as much as possible, but everywhere you turn, there's a lot of bad news, disaster stories, horrible tragedies. Wherever I go, this is what he hears, and this is what he lives with. What are some practical ideas?
So it's interesting. This is something that I know the struggle of very much. I know the struggle of most of these things, or nearly all of these things, obviously. But I think that we've become accustomed to being more aware than we need to be. Right? The person doesn't need to be aware of all of the things that they're aware of on a perpetual level. To identify what type of news that I need to access, what type of information I need to access, and to ensure that I do my hishtadlus to be prepared in whatever way I need to be prepared with whatever element of news arrives my way. The tzaddikim had the news brought to them. Everybody needs to know the news to one degree or another, to know what's happening, especially when a person lives wherever it is that they're living, amongst other nations, in a place of just what it means to be a person in this world. We have to be responsible, we have to know how to function, we have to be worldly to whatever degree we decide to be worldly to. But the more and more we feed ourselves with frightening content, the more and more we feed ourselves with frightening things, the more and more frightened we're going to be. And there's a perverse pleasure of the spirit that is experienced when a person feeds themselves on these negative things. The Piazetzner Rebbe talks about this. My Rebbe of Moshe Weinberger Shlita talks about this very much, that a person is a Bal Hargasha no matter what. A person is going to feel something no matter what. No matter what, a person is going to feel something. And if a person can't feel those things beruchnius, if a person can't feel those things with calmness of spirit, they're going to find the most negative things in the world to make them feel that way. And so I'm going to eat all of the danger and all of the frightening things and all of the difficult things and all of the this, that, or the other thing, just trying to feel something. One of the things that I've realized by coming to Eretz Yisrael, I'm an anxious person when it came to current events. In Eretz Yisrael, there's a sense that no matter what is going on here, there's you're where you're at. There's nowhere to run to here, on one degree or another. And there's a calmness that comes along with that. But the truth of that is found in Chutz La'aretz as well. Every Yid has the recognition that there's no one to run to but HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I just saw earlier, an hour earlier from the Chidush Yarim, it says that at the end of the Mishnah in Sota about our generation, that everything is going to be going wrong and chaotic and scary and destructive and frightening, etc., etc. Ve'ein lanu ela amila hisha'ein ela al Kadosh Baruch Hu, and there's nobody to rely upon other than HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And Zak the Chidush Harim, and in the moment that we realize that, then everything is nimtak, then everything is sweetened. Everything is still chaotic, but I realize that there's nothing but HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There's nothing but HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Ein oid milvado mamish. And in that moment, all of it is nimtak. And so then it becomes a behavioral technique of maybe finding one place that I read my news and spending a certain amount of time that I read the news, and I remain aware while remaining separate. That's what I would say to a person who's overwhelmed by, because there's always been bad news, and the bad news nowadays is more, and we're more aware, and there's so many discussions to be had about why it feels like more and is it more, but we know that it feels like more. That's all that matters. And so we're aware of a lot, and it's a remez to what we're going to experience in the future of roya misoifa oilam ad soifa, that every yid be'emes is meant to see from the end of the world to the next. So right now it's inundation of information, and the goal is to break free from it.
Okay, Rabbi Rosenfeld, I have a lot of questions, but I want to cover this. I think it's very important. It's really two questions. I'm putting it together as one. Rabbi Rosenfeld, I know that you're into Kabbalah, Hasidus, you're a big follower of Menachem's teachings. The Sfarim discuss how to achieve real Menucha in this world, and if so, how? And another question, I'm tying it together. Are there tools and techniques that can be used to cultivate calmness? How can mindfulness, acceptance, breath work help in cultivating Menucha?
So I don't even know what time it is or how long we've gone for, but I would imagine that I just feel like 5:30, 6:30 here in Mashu. But I'm happy to continue. But in terms of breath work, each and every one of these modalities are real possibilities. We live in a generation, Baruch Hashem, where there are many, many techniques through which a person can come to taste Menucha in this world. Mindfulness, cognitive tools, breath work. And we see that there's an immense amount of conversation, misinformation, proper information about the topic of healing in general. There's possibilities that are emerging.
The question, I know we want to get into it. It's about psychedelics. What does Rabbi Rosenfeld hold of that?
The biggest problem that Klal Yisrael has always experienced is something referred to as achal pega. Of being too eager and jumping too quickly and going too soon. I don't know anything about it. I don't know anything. All I would recommend is that if a person is doing it, to be so careful about who and what you're doing, because there is an immense amount of people who have no idea what they're doing. And it's a thing. It's becoming a thing in the Jewish communities. And again, this is not a judgment of the possibility of therapeutic capacity. The process of medicine is a completely separate conversation. That framework does not exist yet.
Well, so let's go back to practical tools. Lamaisa, how to achieve Menucha. Lamaisa, what practice can you do?
Lamaisa, mindfulness is first and foremost, the mind. Recognizing my thoughts and learning to calm my thoughts down. Learning to not give in to all of the thoughts that run around in my mind. To spend 15 minutes a day where I choose to be on top of my thinking, where I choose to be in charge of what I think. Our thoughts are not the end-all be-all of what we are. But because we've given the keys of the house to our thoughts long ago, the thoughts have taken control, like young children who just know how to survive, so they've become captain of the ship. And now, because we realize how thrown off we are, we're trying to be mindful. We're trying to uncover mindfulness. And we find that it's rechoika mimenu, it's very far, because we haven't shown control over our thoughts in a long time. Our thoughts are convinced they're in control. So to spend time allowing myself to realize that the thoughts that I'm feeling do not demand action right now. I can allow my mind to move without my body moving with it. And then grounding myself in whatever it is that I'm doing and wherever I am, to firmly plant myself into my breath, into taking 10 minutes to speak to Hashem in my own language about how much I want Menucha, about how far I feel from Menucha, walking a little bit slower, developing habits of pausing 3 seconds prior to me responding to anybody, learning to identify the triggers that cause me to be angry. There's a tremendous, tremendous tool that's offered in the rooms of 12 steps, referred to as HALT. The HALT tool is hungry, angry, lonely, tired. That prior to any reaction that I give to my emotions, I go through a scan in my mind to realize that whether, in truth, I'm just really hungry right now, I'm angry, I'm lonely, or I'm tired, because more often than not, the things that drive us crazy are not the existential crises or the misery of others, but it's just the fact that I'm not treating myself properly. I'm not on top of my game. I'm not eating right. I'm not sleeping enough. And those are things that are fixable in each and every person's life. So more often than not, there are a lot of things that we are in control of in terms of the cultivation of calmness in our lives, that if we work on them, then we'll realize that it's much easier. Eating right, sleeping right, breathing right, walking right, all of these things. So I think there's no shortage of the work that a person can do. And in each and every person's life, whatever they identify, if it's the body that needs most work, so learning how to work on the body, choosing to work out, to run, eating, whatever it is. So each category has its own, but there's no shortage of skills available. Mindfulness.
Okay, Moiridik. Okay, let's go. Your live question, you're on.
Hi, thank you so much. I just have a question about tefillah, about davening. When a person changes their perspective and they start living with menucha, what I feel like is they stop asking for personal requests. Just whatever Hashem sends them, that's just what they accept. How does that connect? Like continuing to ask for personal requests, just like living with a perception that whatever Hashem sends is going to be what I'm going to accept.
First off, the fact that a person is asking a question like this is a tremendous sign, and the person doesn't need an answer, especially from me. But what I would say is as follows. Tefillah is comprised of 2 elements. There's 2 elements to the human experience. There's 2 elements to the neshama. Every book that we have that discusses the neshama. Let's take Tanya, for example. It says immediately, the first thing we have to recognize is that it's not 1, it's 2. There's 2 neshamas. There's 2 aspects to your neshama. The Gra said there's 70 aspects to the neshama. All of the tzaddikim understood, the Arizal, the Zohar Kadosh, Chazal, they understood that there's 5 compartments, nefesh, ruach, neshama, chay, yechida, because our hearts have many compartments. And a yid has to learn how to live with the balancing act of both compartments. Menucha should never be a lack of advocacy for myself. The only thing that should happen is that when I'm davening for myself, it's easier for me to be aware of the fact that whatever difficulty I'm going through or whatever Hashem is going to send me, that's part of the process of Hashem's unity. But we should never lose that hargasha of I need something. The whole function of tefillah is to enter into that state where I realize that if I'm not crying out to God in this moment, I'm going to drown. That's why Chazal want us to be aware of that. When we shout Rifa'inu, and if it's not ourselves, then we think about the people we love. But part and parcel of the element of tefillah is coming to recognize, as the Maharal says, that we are fundamentally dependent on HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and if not for a second, we would fall apart into a million pieces. And so it's good to tap back into that place of menuchas and nefesh, but when a person is davening, and one element, I think, a very good eitz is to daven for others. Daven for others. Make that personal bakasha about people that you love who are going through the very same thing that you need. And when we're mispal for others, it's easier to feel their pain. I just saw another incredible Chidush Harim. It said that, why is it that when I talk out my pain to another person, that it gets rid of the pain? So it's not really a therapeutic teaching, because b'derech klal we say, by talking it out, that's where the relief comes from. It's a talking cure. But zak the Chidush Harim that there's an allotted amount of pain that each and every person is meant to experience. And if I have a true friend, someone who's really empathic to me, by me sharing my pain with them, they're going to feel pain for me. And Memela, Hashem is going to say, wow, this person is not meant to be feeling pain. Where's the pain coming from? From the other person. And it's going to begin to alleviate the pain of the other individual. So when we feel pain for another person, we are mamish helping HaKadosh Baruch Hu take away the pain for that person. Because we're not supposed to feel pain for others. And so to daven for others is a very good tool.
And also the way the perspective you changed. We're used to davening when we have lack. We're missing something, so we daven. And if the question was, if I feel everything, whatever Hashem does for me for the good, so maybe I'll start davening. But what you're saying is, with Menuchas and Nefesh, we can realize that the davening is not for lack. We can't go on without the davening. So it comes from a different place, I think more relaxed.
The way to survive, right? It's the way to survive. It's avoida. It's and then there's other, meaning the Maggid of Mezrich describes, meaning there's also ways to davening, as the Maggid of Mezrich describes, as mamish like lahavdil elef Abdallah's theater. I'm putting on my costume for the day, and each and every shlav of tefillah is a different shlav, a different scene in the play, and moving upwards. And kind of tefillah is, however we're doing it, with our sitter over our face or our talus over our head, we're entering into a different world. We're entering into a world of being mamish, an actor for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, of being like a kohen in the Beis HaMikdash. That's what tefillah is. It's acting out. Yeah.
That's what Hashem wants us to do.
Vadai.
In order for Him to give us what we need.
Vadai. We're like a monkey, as the Zohar Kadosh says. We're like monkeys in front of the Shekhinah. We're dancing without any mind, because that's what Hashem has told us to do, and that's how we're going to get it.
But not to miss the connection, which is the next question over here. I know that davening and learning is supposed to help you come closer to Hashem, and then you should feel calmness inside. However, even though I do both daily, I don't have inner peace. Am I missing something? Can you please explain it to me?
When a person is aware that they don't have inner peace, that's already first and foremost a haliga step in the process. Most people are unaware that they don't have inner peace. They're not aware that the concept of inner peace even exists. As Menachem says, that there's a hastara shebetoich hastara, which is being so sick that I'm not even aware that I'm sick. Chalil v'chas. But so when I'm learning and davening, if there's, look, as they say in the rooms of recovery, that there's a concept of things that I can control and things I can't control, and what I need to daven for is the wisdom to know the difference. In each and every scenario, if I'm sitting there with my phone while I'm learning, and I'm wondering about what my family needs from me right now, and I'm worrying about what Yanim is doing or what they're doing or where else I should be, then memela. So clearly having my phone around me when I'm learning is the thing that's preventing me from menuchas nefesh. We have to be wise enough to identify the very real things that are the impediments to what we desire. And yes, there are times where it's such a mental block because I've had it as a crutch for so long that I'm not aware of the fact that, you know, my tool for inspiration has turned into a handicap. So at that point, so other people can kind of point it out to me. But so I have to be able to let go of the phones, let go of the busyness of it. It's to push on through. Pushing on through is the answer. To pretend to be b'menucha, to act as if, to be present, to sit, even when my mind is telling me to stand up, for a little bit longer than I'm used to. My mind allows me to learn for 5 minutes, learn for 6 minutes. Push myself beyond my limit to reveal to myself that my limits are not unbreakable. That's the secret of learning 101 times, to push myself and to realize that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants my struggle, and that the learning in the Torah, every moment, every time I sit down to learn a sugya, 3 times throughout that limud, I should be able to close my eyes for a second and say, Rabbi Shalom, give me the koyach to continue learning Lishma, give me the ability to draw down this insight into my life, and allow me to daven and carry out whatever it is that I'm experiencing in your Torah. If I'm mistavik myself to the noisan HaTorah, if I'm makasher myself to the yichud of Hashem that's miskal in the Torah is going to draw me even closer. And so I think leaning in and uncovering the infinite light that rests underneath the black letters, when my eyes grow hazy because I'm tired and the double vision emerges and I'm looking at the page with all the letters jumbled up, I also have to realize that, I see a little bit more of the white of the page right now. And that's okay also, because there are moments where a person has to realize that all that I know, all that I can know, all that has ever been known, and all that will ever be known is nothing, not a drop in the bucket compared to what the whiteness of the page is telling us. And so connecting to the Rabbi Shalom in Limud in Torah is the Baal Shem Tov says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is menucha. That's what, when I have menucha, I'm tapped into HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Nachla b'li mitzarim. And so I think that the Eitzah here is getting rid of the external preventions that are blocking me from learning Torah, and also developing a deep dive into learning what Torah Lishma means, to find Hashem in the Torah.
Rabbi Rosenfeld, another live question. You're on.
I'm wondering about, it's more of a practical question, but your thoughts about yoga, specifically in Chutz La'aretz when it's practiced in like a secular environment. I'm personally asking because it's something I am really passionate about. I do it pretty much every day, and it's something I hope to do as I hope to be a yoga teacher for Jewish women, hopefully one day. So I'm asking from like a personal place and for advice for the future. Firstly, do you see any, I guess, issues with the kind of more westernized and secularized practice of yoga? And also if you have any tips for the future for when, you know, hopefully I am a teacher and I could make it like a holier practice for women.
Sure. It's an incredible question that you're asking. It's an incredible question, and I think it's one that needs to be asked. So you're asking the exactly right question when it comes to this sugya. Yoga is, I don't know anything about yoga other than that it is a sugya. It's a sugya, meaning I know about it, but I'm not a practitioner, nor am I the one to ask this question to. But what I want to say, and because your question is important, there are people that there are to ask this question to. And I'm sure if you reach out to whoever is available through the Coach Menachem program, they can send your question to me, and I'd be happy to put you in touch with people who would be better suited to respond to the delicate nature and the very important nature and desire that your question is representing.
Okay. Roosevelt, you don't have every answer. That's the bottom line. You don't have every answer. Okay, next question. You're on.
Hi, Rabbi Rosenfeld. Thank you so much for your really inside scoop into this idea of Menuchas Nefesh. My question is as follows. I'm a Rebbe in a mainstream elementary yeshiva, dealing primarily with boys right around bar mitzvah age around. And I would like to know how I can effectively infuse within my Talmidim this idea that you mentioned tonight of Menuchas Nefesh, especially from such a young age into these Talmidim.
First off, Ashracha, anytime I meet somebody who's teaching, in these younger grades and these younger ages, it's mamish Mesiras Nefesh, and it's some of the most fundamental work that people can do for Klal Yisrael. So much of the issue is just there were bad teachers. They're not bad, but they were unhealthy teachers, and any person who's taking it upon themselves to be a healthy teacher to any age is mamish, is mitaken ha'olam. So I think that first and foremost, there is nothing better than personal expression of it. And in that role as a teacher, we're actors, we're paid actors, right? We're paid to convey an information that we theoretically are meant to know a little bit more, but perhaps if we're wise enough, we've come to understand that we don't know anything. This is just, the position that we find ourselves in. And if we have that healthy dosage to act and to kind of portray behaviorally that menucha, taking a deep breath before class, giving the kids, a moment to breathe before they open their Gemaras, or to pause and to introduce certain elements like that. But in addition, I think that in the school arena, there is, I don't know if it's like this anymore, I've been out of school for a little bit, but the hyper focus on grade and comparison and the need to perform in order to kind of survive. And look, there is a reality. A person has to function in school to get into high school, to get into college, but also like for them to know that they are okay and everything's okay and everything's going to be okay. The kids, I can't imagine what children at what that age is going through, the generation that they're growing up in, and the traumas and all of what they've experienced just on a collective level. It makes sense that they feel the opposite of calm. So I think that to create a little bit less of a pressure in terms of, the necessity of excellence and to embrace vulnerability, to offer possibilities of, redemption. If a person hasn't done well enough on the first test, to realize that with preparation, you can do better. Things like that. Any element of a punitive approach to education is mamela going to take away from this. Right. So that's first and foremost, right? This demands a healthy perception of affirmative education that holds responsibility without shaming or judging, and then kind of acting like the teacher who's mamish, being mashpia their own hargashos in the way that they teach, the way that they convey Torah, to reveal the menucha of Torah. And also to kind of ease up on the general framework of the intensity of responsibility that comes along with schooling.
Thank you.
I just want to take the question and take it to the next level also. How do you do that in a family setting? So, right, what can we do as a family to achieve calmness between all of us, that we can all raise our children with a sense of calmness, peacefulness, menúcha nefesh, and inner, and help them grow up to be healthy, content adults? What do you do as a family setting?
Daven, first and foremost, daven, connect to holy people. You try, first and foremost. Parenting, meaning parenting is a heavy avoda. And children are real people. And Mamela, the encounter of the inner framework of a home is a sugya as complex and more than the entirety of the Torah. And so to recognize that there's really no one fell swoop of an eitzah ever as to how a family should function, right? We're becoming aware of the internal family structures and how families are, but there's no normal family, there's no not normal family, there's just each and every family is its own planet with its traumas, with the lack of its traumas, its privilege and its lack of privilege. And so with that disclaimer, I think that ultimately what we have to understand as parents is that parenting is the full catastrophe. It is the full-on encounter with this world and all of its elements. And we need to utilize every tool in our arsenal to be present enough to focus on the needs of the child as opposed to our own needs in that moment. And the more we let go of ourselves, the more we let go of our expectations of how the meal was supposed to go, or how my child is supposed to feel, or how my child is supposed to perform, or how my child is supposed to look, or how the meal is supposed to look, or how the house is supposed to look, or how the job is supposed to look, the more that I let go of my personal narrative and my need to be right about how things should turn out, the more easy it will be for the people around me to be calmer. We carry, each person has to see themselves as responsible. Not that we are responsible, but responsible to do our part in alleviating the emotional intensity that fills a home. And as parents, we obviously play a much more fundamental role than our children. We do. Our children by nature are reactionary at this stage, just as we're continue to be reactionary. But as the people in charge, somehow, some way, right, which each parent still continues to feel whatever age they're at, of am I really the one in charge here? How could that be? But to create, when I create the framework of calmness, calmness ensues. It's just the way it works. Halacha. It's halacha. This is how it works. If I create a framework of calmness, even if I'm not feeling calm, if I speak softer, if I speak more patiently, if I breathe deeper before responding, mamela, the air will dissipate. And if there's one thing that continues to show itself as the cause of all of the disruption, so then you begin to focus on the tipul hamiyuchad, on the specific kind of engagement with each member of the family. But when looking at it, the family as a whole, it's incumbent upon the individual to believe at that moment that I have the emotional kind of remote control right now.
Okay, Rabbi Rosenfeld, one more question, then we're going to go to closing, okay?
Yeah.
One more question. I know we covered it, but I think it's an important question. Not everybody was here the whole time, but I really want to cover this question. I think it's important. Question is, generally, I'm a very centered and calm person with inner peace. However, I started going through extremely tough time in my marriage, parnas, and other difficulties, and I feel like everything's falling apart. How could I use my struggle or struggles in general and challenges, opportunities to deepen our and cultivate inner calmness? How do I, when I'm going through a situation, how do I tap into that and actually grow from that?
Yeah. Somebody mentioned illness. Somebody's going through a chronic illness. They live with it. How can they find some peace?
So first and foremost, again, with the prerequisite of understanding each person in accordance with their own level and their reality, there's many, many ways to begin to try and answer this. I want to work with a three-stage process that's kind of at the central heart of what the Baal Shem Tov revealed to the world. It's referred to, and I'm going to say it in Hebrew, and then I'm going to say it in English. It's a three-step process of hachna'a, havdala, and hamtaka. Hachna'a, Havdalah, and Hamtaka. Hachna'a means suppressing something, breaking it down in size. Not the unhealthy type of suppression that hides something, but something that makes it manageable. I suppress the intensity of it. Havdalah is I separate myself from it. And Hamtaka is I learn to sweeten it. Each and every experience that a person encounters in this world, the first stage of Hachna'a is coming to realize that whatever it is that I'm experiencing, however intense it is, however powerful and disruptive, whether it's the illness, whatever it is, from the top to the bottom, there is always an element of perception involved that magnifies whatever the experience is. That is not to say, God forbid, that the mind creates the issue. Sometimes that's true. But even that is not true because the issue of the mind is a real thing, so it's a pre-existing thing. But the mind is always perpetually making things a little bit more real than they actually are. That's just, there's always an element of the mind involved. And so suppressing it and breaking it down in size is identifying exactly what it is that is in front of me right now. What is the issue? What is the struggle? What is the problem? And by isolating it and breaking it down in size, I name it. Like we said before, anxiety doesn't want to be named. An issue doesn't want to be named because an issue wants to spread itself forth in every area of one's feeling. If there's mold growing in one room, its natural desire is to grow forth as extended as possible. And so by naming what the issue is, by suppressing it, by giving it a proper name, I tame it a little bit. I always wondered why it is that we name hurricanes. Why was it like we're afraid of Phil or Bertha? Because human beings, no matter how ingenuous we are and how brilliant we are in trying to fight against death and fighting against time, ultimately what we're forced to realize is that the brute force of Mother Nature, of Teva, is something fully beyond the human capacity of control. And that's too frightening of a realization to hold on to. I'm building civilization. I'm trying to build myself. I'm supposed to be ever presently aware of the fact that it could all fall apart as a result of a hurricane. And so by naming it Bertha, it's much easier to worry about Bertha than it is to worry about the ultimate truth that I'm not in control of anything. So by naming something, it becomes more bite-sized, more manageable, and minimized. Then I need to separate myself from the issue. If I find myself too entrenched in the moment, if I find myself too entrenched and too connected, this issue defines me, or this struggle defines me, or this relationship defines me, or this whatever defines me, then I'll never be able to separate myself enough to have a healthy reflection. I'll always be too caught up in it. I'll always be too caught up in the subjective connection where I won't have enough distance to be able to look at it. And so I have to separate it from myself. I have to be mavdil myself from the problem. I have to realize I live beyond this problem. This problem does not define me. This moment does not define me. I exist in this moment as a moment that I exist in, but I've separated and severed myself from that. And in that moment, when I have reduced it in size and separated myself from it, I could look at it objectively. I can look at the situation, I can learn how to sweeten it. Because in each and every scenario, wherever I find myself, if I choose to connect to the Nakuda of Emunah in that moment, to the Alufa Shel Olam that is present, to the light of Hashem that is present in the moments of chaos and the moments of struggle, Memela Yispardu Kol Palei Oven. All of the difficulty goes away. It's not that the difficulty stops being difficult, but the sense of difficulty is sweetened because I now carry myself with Emunah. I realize that there's a higher force that's carrying me, with me, in me at every moment of my existence. Emunah is something that lifts me up. It reveals more within myself. It doesn't erase anything. Adarabba, it gives me the ability to transform every moment of struggle, every moment of failure, every moment of descent is an opportunity to reveal and say, Hashem, you're also here. You're also here. And that's the tachlis of creation, to reveal Hashem here as well. Every moment of it.
Okay, Rabbi Rosenfeld, let's go to closing. We're going to wrap it up, and we need a good start to wrap up 2 hours of shir. Okay, first of all, good shishkot for everybody. Joe Rosenfeld coming on tonight, waking up early morning in Eretz Yisrael. Tremendous chizik tonight. We covered so much ground tonight. I didn't expect to cover so much, by the way. Again, tonight's share is 141. If anyone wants to join the WhatsApp to get the flyers every week, you WhatsApp me at 848-525-0066. I'll send you the flyer every Sunday. If you want to go to menachemberfeld.com, you can sign up to his email list every Sunday. We'll email you the programs, the replays, and everything. Again, if anybody's here the first time, every Sunday night at 9:30 on this Zoom ID, different Rabbanim, different topics, different therapists. Hopefully next week we'll have Rabbi Joey Haber, followed by Avi Michelle, a therapist, and Hashem, Joey, Yossi Zakatinsky is coming Erev Shavuos to give us an Erev Shavuos Torah from the Chevra. So please join us. They're all going to be powerful topics. Let people know about it. Everything will be recorded. Show will be on menachemberfel.com. If anyone has any questions, email coachmenachem@gmail.com. Again, a good subscribe for Rabbi Joey Rosenfeld for coming on. Special thank you to the Liquid Scoop, Ellie and Ariel from 510 Central, Kaya Kaufman from JCN. I'm going to go to closing. First, for Coach Menachem is going to wrap it up. And then Rabbi Joey, we need a good wrap up tonight. Menachem, we'll wrap it up tonight.
Thank you very much, Rabbi Rosenfeld. And I think we picked up a lot of information. It does take us to deep places to realize how we work, where we're coming from, what's driving us, and to be able to connect to who we are, to connect to Hashem. But I just want to mention two things that you mentioned. First of all, in the beginning, for a person to understand we're trying, and yes, we could always do better, and we're not giving up, but to be able to say over and over, I'm okay, it's okay, yes, I could do better, but here I am now in the present moment, and this is where I am, and I'm doing good. You need that from yourself. There's something else driving you in negativity. You got to build that positivity inside ourselves so we can stop and slowly be where we are. And another idea is if you need to be relaxed and you have to, that itself is anxiety. I have to be relaxed and I need my kids to be relaxed and I need that. And you need, take a deep breath. It is what it is. You might not like it, but this is what it is. We start learning to be in the present moment, even though we want something else, but here I am. So you look around, maybe the kids are not exactly behaving the way you want. Again, they're on their journey. And yes, you would love for them to do different things, make it easier, but to be able to be where you are and to be able to see them and let things happen, let them go on their journey. So you don't have to change. And that itself makes things easier. You can take a deep breath and start enjoying the moment you're in. So thank you very much. And for everybody to be able to take ideas, implement small things in my day, like we heard, a few minutes in the morning, a few minutes at night. In the morning, where am I? Take a deep breath, do some practice to relax. And then at the end of the day, thank Hashem for what you were able to do. And tomorrow is another day. So shkoyach, and we should all have a lot of siyata d'shmayim.
Amen.
Roosevelt, let's go 2 hours. Let's wrap it up.
So just to end, it's tremendous schluss. We could go for longer. I'm going to fall asleep, but I think that, like Coach Menachem pointed out, the most fundamental thing to review upon is the fact that a little bit is also good, because a little bit contains everything. There's nothing in this world that doesn't contain everything, and even one moment of calmness is worth the entirety of creation. Mamish. To learn how to be satisfied and to find simcha in whatever nakuda of simcha that we can grasp out of this world. And to recognize, and I think this is the nakuda, that by Yisachar, this is a teaching of the Baal HaSulam, and it's a teaching that the Baal HaSulam shared over with the Chazon Ish. The pasuk by Yisachar says that V'yar menucha ki tov, that he saw that menucha was good. And the pasuk ends and it says V'yat sichmo lispo. He saw that menucha was good, and he girded his shoulders to bear the burden. So Zak the Baal HaSulam, I don't understand. If menucha is good, menucha is the thing that we're looking for in this world, then why prepare myself to bear the burden of this world? And the Baal HaSulam says that in this world, what we give to Hashem is the thing we love most. Each and every one of us is Moiser Nefesh, the thing that we love most to the Rabbeinu Shalom, like the Akedah. And in this world, what we want most is calmness. We want to feel calm. We want to feel okay in this moment. But to learn how to truly be calm takes effort. It takes us out of our calmness sometimes. It pushes me into a place where it's uncomfortable, and it forces me to be aware of things that scare me. And we have to realize that every moment of the opposite of Menucha that we feel in this world is a gift that we're giving to HaKadosh Baruch Hu by trying to find Menucha. Every attempt, every movement forward, every slight gesture that a person engages in to extricate themselves ever so slightly out of the stuckness that they find themselves in is Kriyas Yamsuf Mamish. And all we can do is to try to move a little bit forward. The little bit is where we're going to find Mashiach. And we have to understand that the Mesiras Nefesh that we give to find Menucha in this world, which is always available to us, that is via Mashiach. That is the encounter with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The deepest thing that Pnimius Torah can teach us is that we're okay. We're okay, and it's okay to not be okay, because we're never going to be fully okay, because the only thing that's perfect is Hashem. And that our job is to own what it means to be a human being, to not be a malach, to receive the Torah. And to know that every moment where we struggle for our menucha is a kiddush shem shemayim. It's drawing the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu back into the tzimtzum. It's the biggest kiddush Hashem that we can possibly make. There's no greater kiddush Hashem than we can make than when I feel hopeless or I feel that I can't function, where I find a little bit more. Oid ma'at ve'ein rasha. I find a little bit more. I've just been Makadeh Shem Shemayim in a way that nobody, not Avram, not Yitzchak, not Yaakov, were capable of doing. Not Sarah, not Rivka, not Rachel, not Leah. Our generation, any size, any bite-sized piece of Menucha is enough to dance Ad Vias Goyal for. We're a generation that is completely wondrous. We're a generation that is Chayev and Zakai at the same time. We have nothing of our own. We're impoverished, we're exhausted, we're broken. But at the same point, we're still here and we have Emunah. And to eat Emunah, as Rabbi Nachman said, that there's going to come a time before the coming of Mashiach where even the slightest amount of Emunah is going to be a bigger nace than the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh. And so we have to celebrate ourselves and be proud of ourselves and force Mashiach to come Be'ezras Hashem. We have to demand that HaKadosh Baruch Hu send Mashiach Be'ezras Hashem.
Amen. Mashiach now.
Okay, Mashiach now. Okay, Yashakaya Chevra.
Okay, thank you, Rabbi Rosenfeld, for coming on so early in the morning. And I'm sure we'll see everybody next week, same time, same place. Rabbi Rosenfeld, Moridik, we love you.
Thank you. Thank you.